Hello friends, our topic today is awareness, a very central theme to our spiritual life. So as always, let's begin by reading what Swami Kriyananda ji says about awareness in Affirmations for Self-Healing. Swamiji writes, awareness deepens the more it is centered in itself. But the farther a person's interests extend outside himself, the thinner the supply line of his awareness becomes. If a person's consciousness is centered outwardly in things, it takes on those qualities which it attributes to those things. Jewelers, for instance, often have bright eyes. People with no sense of higher values have dead eyes. Man needs to learn to change his focus from what he is aware of to what he is aware with. He needs to become more aware at the source of his awareness, at his deepest center, God. Through this awareness, his enjoyment even of the surrounding world becomes intensified 1,000-fold. Yogananda ji would often advise his disciples to enjoy things, but to always enjoy with the joy of God. And even when we are trying to overcome some temptation on the spiritual path which we feel is not serving us, one of the first things to overcome that temptation is to be aware that whatever happiness that temptation is bringing us is within ourselves, right? So when we feel happy because energy is moving up the spine. That is what yogis have told us. And when we are sad, when we are depressed, when we are low, and even the words that I'm using indicate that the energy is moving down in the spine. So let's just take a very simple example that, let's say you really like watching movies, for instance, and you are prone to binge watching certain shows on Netflix or some other streaming channel. So in that sense, the first step to overcome that temptation, as Swamiji has often said in different places, is to be aware that the happiness it brings is only because of the movement of energy in the spine. In other words, take that joy, that temporary joy of watching that movie inside yourself. And then you will realize that the movie itself, or the object of temptation, of sense satisfaction itself, doesn't have any value, and that what it's doing is only serving as a means to move energy in the spine. So in that sense, we can learn to be aware of what is happening inside. As Swamiji writes, man needs to learn to change his focus from what he is aware of, which is, let's say, the temptation, to what he is aware with, which is what's happening in my deepest center. And then from that awareness, we can begin to realize that even though indulging in this temptation leads to perhaps a temporary joy, but at the end, it brings the energy down in the spine. And so therefore, I can use other ways to uplift my consciousness to feel equally joyful without any crash, without any side effect, so to speak. And that way is, of course, through meditation, through reading spiritual books, through spending time with other spiritual seekers, all the ways that we know to keep our energy uplifted. So all of this change begins only when we begin with an awareness of what we are aware with at our deepest center. Now, our awareness is very limited, of course, and that of the masters is omniscient. So Swami Kriyananda ji once remarked that we are not even aware of our whole body, right? Our awareness is mostly centered in our mind, in our head, or a body part that we are using at that time. So right now, as I'm speaking to you, I'm sitting on a chair. My awareness is focused mainly towards my mouth, my brain, my mind, and my hands as I'm using them to make different gestures. But I am not equally aware of my thighs, my buttocks, my feet, my toes, because I'm not using them. So ordinary man is not even omniscient in his own body. Just to wait and imagine for a second the consciousness of a self-realized master who is one with God, who is equally present in every atom of creation. What must that awareness feel like? Imagine that. It's hard to imagine with the intellect, because one who is not of expanded awareness will not be able to feel what it is to have an expanded awareness. But that is showing us that we still have a long way to go to expand our awareness. And true masters are always aware, which is to say their actions are not guided by past tendencies or likes and dislikes. Yogananda ji, Dr. Lewis, one of Yogananda ji's disciples, actually his first American disciple in the US, said that Yogananda ji wouldn't even tie his shoelace the same way each time. And this is not to say that he was trying to waste his energy on something menial, but what this means is that for so many of us, the act of tying a shoelace is automatic. We could perhaps do it as we are asleep, or at the least with our eyes closed, right? Because it's so much of a habit. But the great masters are not at all influenced by past habit, by past tendencies, by their desires or likes and dislikes. They are completely aware, and every action that they take is out of their awareness, is out of free will. Their will is free from past tendencies, from the influence of past habits, because they are completely self-realized. I once remember a story also of Swami Kriyananda, of just how aware he would be. And this is the story of when he was with a group of people and they were out and about doing some work, and he happened to gaze at a particular document his friend was holding, and on that document was clipped a business card which had the number of a certain person, and Swamiji looked at it, and that was it. And then a few hours later, when someone asked for that number, Swamiji just repeated it. And then the friend who was with Swamiji was astonished. He said, "I never even told you the number." And Swamiji said, "Well, I looked at it." And then the friend said, "But you looked at it for like a couple of seconds." But Swamiji then said that, "Yes, but I concentrated on what I saw." So you see, we have so many things going around us that we are not aware of. But the great souls, those who are highly advanced on the path, the great masters, their level of awareness is highly refined, is greatly expanded. And with that level of awareness, they can do such things which to us might seem impossible. Awareness also has another implication for us in our lives, which Swami Kriyananda ji writes in another place, is to be keenly interested in everything, is to be aware of what's happening. And awareness is not so much a matter of, as he says, what one is aware of, instead of what one is aware with. And therefore he says, don't wait for things to interest you. Don't wait for a certain object, a certain project, a certain person to interest you. Cultivate that interest inside yourself and be keenly interested in everything. And he writes that if you tell yourself, I'll become interested when I can find something that awakens my interest, you will find yourself becoming progressively bored with everything. Always be open instead to new possibilities, new ideas, and new points of view. So that's another concept of an expanded awareness is to more and more not becoming identified with the things we see outwardly, but becoming identified with our inner center, our deepest center. And the more we are identified with that, the more we realize that we are in control of our state, that we can choose to be interested in whatever it is that we have to do. And eventually, the more we practice this, the more we realize that we really are at our deepest center one with God. The more we realize that which we are aware with, as Swamiji writes, and I'm mentioning this again and again because it's such a revolutionary idea if you think about it. So we again and again identify with our deepest center, which is God, and the more we identify with it, the more one we feel with it. And how to do that is through the practice of meditation. When we still the body, we still the mind, we calm the waves of feeling, we calm the thoughts, that's when we realize that we are none of it. We are the soul which is behind all of this. And when that awareness comes, it brings with itself a sense of great joy, because no longer our consciousness feels burdened by this bundle of flesh and bones, that we are free from all this limitation, that we have an infinite capacity to love, to include others in our love and joy. And that is how expansion of awareness leads us to freedom, leads us to God's bliss, to God's joy. So with all that being said, let's practice the affirmation on awareness that Swami Kriyananda ji has given us. Let's close our eyes, sit up straight, focus at the point between the eyebrows. And repeat these words with a lot of energy with me. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. And now in a whisper, taking it deeper into your subconscious mind, repeat after me. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith. For I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. And now gaze deeply at the point between the eyebrows and repeat mentally only as I say these words out loud. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith, for I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. I behold the world with eyes of calmness and of faith, for I know that as I view others, so will I myself become. Let that thought sink in deeply into your consciousness. And now let's offer a prayer together from our heart, silently, Infuse me from my deepest center with Thy joy. Make me aware of Thee, my divine beloved, in all that I behold. Make me aware of Thee, my divine beloved, in all that I behold. Joy to you, my friends.